Consider This with Carol Schrader is made possible with support from Bass & Associates, First Data Resources, and by Nebraskans for Public Television. Consider This with Carol Schrader, a news and information program recorded on the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. From the Fireside Lounge in the Milo Bale Student Center, here is your host, Carol Schrader.
Hello and welcome once again. I almost didn't start the show on time. I have such enthusiastic people here that we've just been so busy talking. Please welcome once again to Consider This. My guests, I'm just going to get right to it because these are neat people. Larry Gomez is with the Chamber of Commerce. He also handles the Small Business Council for the Chamber, and one of his babies is the Buy the Big O Conference. Lots of other people deserve credit too, but it is one of his. Also with us today is Jim Hanson Jr., who's CEO of InTouch Communication. Now I understand they are a one-source solution center for folks for their local, this is businesses, for their local and long-distance phone service and phone equipment.
Absolutely.
Want to welcome you here today. Also a member of the Small Business Council.
Yes, you bet.
Now, we want to talk first briefly about a big doings.
You bet. We have our Big O Business Show.
Big O Business Show. It's a big O business show.
Which is Tuesday, October 19th.
10th anniversary.
10th anniversary this year at the Holiday Convention Center, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's our biggest ever. We'll have 285 exhibitors with, we expect over 6,000 people next Tuesday to be at the Holiday Convention Center. It's a business-to-business show, networking, a lot of companies just talking to each other and people coming to the show to see who's out there doing business in Omaha.
Well, Jim, since your company considers itself to be a one-source solution center, I would imagine that people are looking for solutions to business situations and problems, and so, and you know, sometimes you don't know what's out there to actually see, touch, and talk to people.
Exactly. The Big O Show is a good opportunity for a small business like ours to show those other businesses in Omaha what we do. It also gives us a good opportunity to see what our competitors do and what our competitors are about, but mainly just show the support for Omaha and the small businesses and the business people in Omaha.
Well, it makes sense to, you know, we tend to, oh gee, I heard about this company, or I saw this on the web, or I get a magazine and it has this ad in it, that if you don't know it's here, you're apt to pick up the phone and call somebody else.
Well, in this case...
Not because they don't like Omaha.
No, and it always happens that there's products and services, this Omaha metropolitan area can handle anything. We're a pretty big city and metropolitan area now when you take a look at the 5-county area. And the kinds of businesses that are in this show, what the neat thing about it, it's wide, it's a variety, it's service, it's professional, it's the Golden Spikes baseball team, it's to an insurance company, to InTouch Communications, to a small gifts and baskets type company, Bags and Baggage, a retail store. So it's big and small, but it's the kind of thing where people can take care of business. Maybe they've been trying to contact a few people that are in the show. They can see them face to face, maybe get some business taken care of, but also do some follow-ups. So a lot of things go on, and it's grown from a show 10 years ago that had 15 exhibitors and 100 people to growth, and now we had to grow it by 50 more exhibitors, and that's as far as we can go with the Holiday Convention Center, because we got a new hall called Ford Hall that we've put all the exhibitors in.
The one you kind of go down.
We've got to go down a few steps. We've got some attractions down there. Jim's company's down there. Quiznos is going to be giving free sandwiches away for lunch. Borsheim's a couple of gift certificates, $500 gift certificates that you can win by going down to Ford Hall and seeing those exhibitors, let alone all the others that are there. So it's an exciting, fun day. It's business, it's work, but it's fun.
Kit, before we move on to some, meatier subjects, but can people, you can't sign up to be an exhibitor because you're pretty full, but what about going?
We definitely want everybody to be there.
Yeah, the Chamber has free tickets. If you get a ticket at the door, it's $5. The Chamber themselves doesn't want to sell any tickets. They'd much rather have everybody get tickets from exhibitors or people that are doing the exhibit. The nice thing that our business likes about the Big O Show is that it puts everybody on the same plane. When we go to a lot of different trade shows, as a small business, we get one 10 by 10 booth, and we're next to a booth that has 5 booths put together into one big outfit. This one, pretty much everybody has the same playing field, and that
If you
that
can't
really
make your
makes it
pitch in
fair.
10 by 10,
Exactly.
then you can't do it, right?
Makes it very fair for everybody. So.
Let's talk about, and these are smaller businesses that are
For the most part, yes.
small business. We keep forgetting. I mean, we hear about this show is underwritten by a big business, FDR. It's underwritten by a small business, Bass and Associates. We need both of them to make this community run. But in terms of numbers, I mean, the small businesses certainly add up to somewhere around the big businesses, if not more.
90% of our chamber members are small businesses. That would be 100 employees or less. Most of the persons that are in this Big O show are your medium and smaller companies. Sure, you have some bigger name companies, but Omaha is made up. You've got some great corporations and Fortune 500 companies, but you've got to feed those bigger companies with the small ones with every kind of product, such as gyms. And so Omaha is not unique to any city, but I think we have as in-depth a small business community as any city has, and that's what makes the show and everything go well here in Omaha.
All right, let's talk about, let's kind of start at the beginning.
Okay.
For starting a small business in Omaha, percolating, do we have the right climate for that? And we'll talk about the worker shortage a little later, but
Sure.
do we have the right climate for percolating business, not just in terms of the business know-how, but in terms of all the technical things needed, the high-tech things needed?
You bet.
Jim?
As a small business, we've been in business 5 years, and when we first started, you know, again, personnel is always difficult to come by, but the expertise, the availability of the telecommunications, being Omaha is the center of the United States. Omaha has more, in a communications business, more fiber in it than any other community. So on a communication side, absolutely. Omaha is easy to get to from anywhere in the United States. Omaha is easy to get out of when you have to travel. I do a lot of traveling with my business, so Omaha being centrally located provides us with a lot of advantages that other cities might not provide. And for a small business person, that really helps in doing our business.
We've all seen the commercial, and I think it's for some high-tech business where the kind of underling takes the boss out into the desert and says, we're going to build our new business here. And he goes, what? And he says, have you ever heard of internet? And he says, and it's like $2 a square feet here compared to whatever. And the guy goes, basically, sold. We're not that remote.
No.
But isn't there still a feeling on the outside that we're remote?
Absolutely.
We still, and forever in some ways, we'll fight, if you will, the image, which we're always working on. We're still Omaha. I mean, you still have the Chicago, New York, east. You get east of Chicago, the mentality of where is Omaha? It's the middle of the country, and it's between Chicago and Denver. We're slowly but surely, with more of the notoriety, some of the good things that have happened with the Caterpillar announcement of a few years ago, and now the building, even though we weren't in a winning mode with a couple of major companies, the Mercedes, BMW, we were still on the front page of the Wall Street Journal and your Fortune magazines and other things like, hey, what's going on in Omaha? We've been noted as an entrepreneurial city in the top 10 of our region for the last 3 or 4 years. So we're getting that kind of front page look that we need to start changing the beef and football and just Omaha. And I think Omaha people are doing a better job as they travel and become more out there. As
Their
somebody like-
inferiority complex is diminishing a little bit.
I think
too.
so.
You know, people are getting away from I live in Omaha as an apology,
I
as
live in
opposed to I'm really proud of it. I mean, one of the things that the chamber puts out is a little business card that talks about some of the positives of Omaha. You know, we have 5 Fortune 500 corporate offices here, 15.5 million millionaires, or 15,500 millionaires. You know, those type of things. We should be proud of the city we're in as opposed to apologizing for it, because it's a wonderful city. I do a lot of traveling and would have an opportunity to live just about anywhere, and I choose to live in Omaha because of Omaha.
Well, if we have the wherewithal to percolate a business from the ground up, and we probably have a lot of good minds and good ideas already here. The question then, and the reason I asked about the ongoing how we're perceived is Are people coming here at all to start businesses?
We're getting more of that than we used to. And I think part of it is some of our businesses that are growing at a good rate are bigger companies, and they're bringing families. As those younger students and families get into the age where they're coming out of college, that's bringing a different mentality to the Omaha community from a Phoenix or whatever that family has moved. And there's a lot of that going on very quietly. So we're starting to get a little more of that entrepreneurial we always have, but still not just Omaha people starting businesses. Other folks from other parts of the country moved here because of family situations. Now they're growing into the 20s, and now they're thinking about maybe starting a business other than working for themselves. So little by little, we're making great inroads. I think business-wise, we're doing great. We are, and as you noted earlier, I think it's not going to go away like this, and I don't know how fast it could ever go away. It's a great problem to have, but that whole finding the right person for that job.
Well, I just checked the figures from last month. Actually, we don't have September's yet, but it's 2.3% unemployment, and it hovers around the 2.5% mark. And that's a great news situation in terms of the, how should I say, the financial esprit of the city. In other words, we have people employed.
Everybody's working. Yeah.
But we have a number of jobs, as does almost every city in the United States, that require a minimum skill. And a lot of them have to do with, we've heard the term high tech, but computer literacy, maybe 2 steps beyond that, maybe 3, maybe 10.
Right.
And nobody in the country can fill their jobs.
Well, that's
so how do we
exactly
compete
right.
with that?
Yeah.
Well, a number of different things right here, UNO, with the education process that we get here. One of the things that we have to compete against are, and we talked about it before the show, are Denver with the mountains, and you got the oceans.
Okay, we don't
you
have
got
an
the hot
ocean, we don't
weather,
have mountains.
but we have good quality of living. The school systems in Omaha are far better than most. I come from the Millard area, and very proud of the fact that Millard's school system always seems to be up there. District 66 has wonderful, special education. Those
OPS
types of
for
things.
its size, has always been right up there.
Right. The down-home, good sense things that Omaha has are what attract the businesses to Omaha.
I've always thought there should be some sort of campaign that says, the good life is here, you can travel anywhere.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
something that's come to my mind, and I guess I'll say it here on the show, is that we may want to tackle a Tony Bennett and have him do The Good Life.
Not a bad idea.
And just see if we can commission him, because we've used The Good Life on our billboards and our ads through the years. The governors have used it. It's on as you enter Omaha, or not Omaha, but Nebraska. The Good Life, and I think there's something nationwide that could be done with something like that. But that's, again, we're much more mobile as a society. The families that used to all stay in Omaha. Now those families, they're educated someplace else, and then you got to get them back if you've got 2 or 3 children to come back, or they stay someplace else. And maybe 5 or 10 years from now, they realize, whoa, it was pretty nice in Omaha, and the cost of living's good, and the people are nice, and you can get around still fairly easy. But it's still, we're getting a bigger city. We're more metro.
We are.
And so there's a lot of things that go into keeping people here and finding more. We just have to keep working at it. I think every landlocked city is struggling like we are, although it's a great struggle, if you will.
What these 90% membership in the chamber of the small businesses,
Right.
they can't put full-page ads or quarter-page ads in the World Herald on the Want Ads page. You mentioned that to me when we were talking on the phone.
Yes.
So what does a company like yours do to get people that can handle the jobs?
Word of mouth, references. It's so funny. So many people, at least in my industry, which is a little different, the communications industry is a very large industry, but very small and very tight-knit. People don't necessarily change jobs, they just change companies. But you can only do that so much. I think the main thing is being creative, starting from scratch, being able to train and get people to a point. If you have someone that's well educated and is willing to learn, maybe putting a little bit more effort into training them into what you want them to do, as opposed to trying hiring somebody that already has experience from someone else. The other thing that is untapped, as we talked about, is the more mature or the more mature employee force in Omaha.
I was just mentioning to him on the phone that I have friends that are my age, and I'm, approaching the high end of 40, but even those that are in the upper 30s who feel like they didn't come up in the computer generation, and that no one's willing to take a risk on them, that they'll ask for too much money because, they moved up in their company, and that we're not opening the door with some real preliminary stuff in the education market in this town for them, and also our welfare to work people. I mean, small bits and drabs, so there's not this horrible fear of A, I'll fail, and B, they won't want me anyway.
Right.
Business owners are having to think outside of the box in reference to they're finding good people and keeping good people, and having their business, I don't care if it's 4 people or 40 people or 140 people, doing the kinds of things so the turnover doesn't, and that's where the real dollars are spent, is you lose some people and then you got to retrain them and all that. So the thinking outside of the box is, even the owners, a good percentage of the time is seeking out someone that treats them right, maybe even over the phone, or if they're in a restaurant, or if they see some good customer service, they're wanting to find who that person is, a name, and now maybe they're stealing, if you will, from somebody else's employee, but they'd like to better this person, and then maybe they can better them at their company. So you really got owners of companies who are really out there aggressively looking for good people in different ways.
When the members of your council sit down and they tackle these various problems, and I'm sure that they constantly talk about the worker shortage, or just the availability of workers, do they agree among themselves as to how to go about this, or do they sort of jealously protect their own sources?
No,
I mean, come on.
Everybody, luckily enough in the council, we're all in somewhat different industries, so we do share a lot of the secrets and things that we've got. One of the members hired her lead customer service person from a restaurant. She waited on her and was happy with her service and hired her, and those are things that you can do in different industries. A lot of the things that we talk about on the Small Business Council are more conceptual as opposed to individual.
Right.
And one of the issues that has been coming up over and over again is to keep people here and attract people here is to make sure that our arts are strong, and that we have a strong campaign to make sure that the arts are still very active in town.
Well, it wasn't that long ago, the World Herald did a huge article about is there an entertainment void? Is there a sports void? Is there...
we have enough fun.
Now, maybe it's just because I've always been able to find fun.
Yes.
So it's never been a problem. But I put myself in a 20 to 25 year old mode, and new to town maybe.
Yeah.
I grew up here. I know where all the secret fun places are. No,
Exactly.
but I mean, you just know, and you feel comfortable in a town. But if we want to bring people in,
yes, it's one of those things that what's good for one may not be good for 5 others. I mean, we're being aggressive as a chamber and as some special councils on labor availability at high school reunions, these 10 and 15 and 20-year reunions that the Centrals and the West Sides and
I never would have thought of that.
and the North High School and whatever. We have some people who are volunteering their time, younger 25, 30-year-old adults that are living in Omaha that are going to these reunions, sitting at the registration desk, and as someone comes back for their 10-year reunion, maybe they have families now or whatever, have you thought about coming back to stay? Has it crossed your mind that Omaha is not as bad as you thought it was? As you moved away to go to school at Arizona and you stayed in Tempe, and why not come back here and start your family? So we're doing those kinds of aggressive things to 1-by-1, 2-by-2s families, and it helps to, some would say a Caterpillar, let's say. That's a big name that came in and is going to start adding employees. Well, that's the kind of employees that are going to bring families. If they come from Moline or whatever, if they're transferred, then families come. That means there's some high school kids. That means they're going to be hopefully educated and stay here. And so some would say, well, maybe they'll take some employees from other companies, but they're going to bring some others here with families. And so it's a mix that you have to have. You have to grow to fill in the other jobs too. So.
All right, so the right business climate, which you say we have. In other words, we have people that are willing to mentor and help and share knowledge. And we have the high-tech availability. We've got fiber cable
You bet.
hanging out our ears.
Yeah.
We have enough big companies to at least give us the notoriety, you know,
The
because you
base.
need a good mix.
Yes.
You bet.
And also they can add something to the mix that it would take a lot of small companies to do just in the culture, the business culture of a community. We need the workers. What else? The cultural.
I mean, it's been in the papers, and we've talked about it as a business community and whatever. But the convention center kind of situation would really help us.
Okay, we've heard about, you know, getting the big acts and all that, but from a business point of view, why is that convention
I'm
center
focusing on,
important?
and Jim could on the convention center side of it. I mean, just as our Big O show. I mean, at 285 exhibitors.
You're outgrowing the
I've outgrown,
existing-
and that's just an Omaha show. All of the regional and national shows that Jim could go to and maybe sits in a conference for 3 or 4 days in Wichita. Well, why couldn't this be in Omaha? Well, Jim thinks as he's sitting there, oh, gee, we don't have the space for it. I better not even put in our bid.
You bet.
And I know that goes on with hundreds of Omaha business people as they go to different conferences around the country. We have a nice arena. It's small, but it's not a convention center. You know, and it's 9,000.
It's okay, barely. I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
Well,
it's a little old, you know.
Yeah, it's been remodeled and it's
But-
fine for what it is, but it's
Yeah.
not a convention center. It's an arena. And we truly don't have a 400,000 or 500,000 square foot, so you can have 400 or 500 exhibitors on one floor, so you don't have to go up 2 or 3 floors, that people could park right outside. A city our size, and it's sort of an embarrassment not to have a true convention center where we can have people from, and you talk about opening eyes, we would really open some eyes.
Absolutely.
Well, I have to
Absolutely.
say, and you know, it's going to be up to the voters. It's going to be, well, first it's going to be up to City Council, and then it's going to be up to the voters. And regardless of the political, let's just leave that aside, that the potential for just the pathway from the Eppley Airfield, you know, with a convention center in downtown and all
You bet.
that. I mean, just that alone, given I've had to go through really dirty, dingy parts of cities to get to their convention centers, and we're talking New Orleans,
You
I mean,
bet.
we're talking the big cities. We don't have, you know, horribly, I mean, sure, there are parts of town where everybody wishes it was a little nicer, but we don't have that, we have a potential to just write a whole new chapter.
Absolutely. That's why it's so frustrating for a small business. You know, you have the we versus they attitude. In Nebraska, everything west of Lincoln versus east of Lincoln. And as a small business owner in Omaha, Nebraska, we just want to get it done. You know, let's turn the page, if you will. That's very important to bring in activities for the people that are our employees. The dichotomy of the people that we have working for us is so vast. We have people that like opera. We have people that like wrestling. We have people that like whatever. We can't get some of those things in. Granted, the opera is here. We want to make sure it stays here. But we can't get some of the things. I mean, you know, a lot of them are sporting events. A lot of them are big events that if we had here, you know, the people would get excited and say, yeah, I can go do this, as opposed to going to Ames for a concert or Kansas City for a concert, those type of things.
Well, the one thing about a convention center is, I think when I was younger, and I mean, yes, I can remember back then,
We're there.
but when I would go to different cities for conventions, like Republican or Democratic National Convention, I'd
You
go,
bet.
gee whiz, this is a cool city, and it's happening here.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know what was happening,
Sure.
but I just knew it was happening.
You bet.
And I thought, well, gee, you know, if I ever got a chance to interview here, I'd at least come.
Yeah, you
because
bet.
it's a cool city.
Yeah.
And we'd like to have that kind of a reciprocal
We don't have those
feeling of it.
opportunities right now.
Well, and I think that adds to the apologetic. I live in Omaha. You know, I spent a lot of years on the road, and I always said it's a great place to raise a family, but if I was single, I don't know if I'd live there. Now I changed that a little bit. Obviously, I'm married, older, and have kids, but there's plenty to do. You know, a lot of people say, you know, after September and to March, all there is Nebraska football. Well, there's a lot of other things to do in town. It's just, you got to find it. The other thing that's a problem with small businesses is we can't be a U.S. West and go out and have a U.S. West night at the opera or U.S. West night somewhere else. And that's a problem that we have. I have 10 employees. I can't pull any weight with the opera and say I want to take my employees to the opera. Well, we're, as a small business council,
I mean, you could
that's
take
one
them
of
there.
the
You
things-
could even pay their way, but you wouldn't have.
Yeah, you don't get any special treatment
In-touch
or make
communication,
yeah,
right?
yeah, in touch night, or reach
should all
out
be
and
in
touch
touch.
someone or
Could
something.
work.
Yeah, exactly, it could.
But as we draw to the end of this and we look towards the by the Big O,
Okay.
the idea is that we don't have any, other than convention center or this or that, we don't have any larger problem than any other city, really, do we?
Maybe less. I mean, there's always problems, there's always issues, there's folks that aren't being part of that economic boom that maybe they should be. And transportation-wise, we're pretty good. I think there's some needs as far as a western loop that people are looking at
And
to
getting
get
our
us
employees from one part
one
of
place to
town to
another.
the
I
other.
think we've got
Very
a little
true.
bit of the
We
mass
talked about
transit
that here
issue,
before.
and that hurts in getting people to those jobs if they aren't have a car or things like that. But generally speaking, we're on a roll. Nothing's perfect, but things are going pretty doggone well, but we always and it's going to have a lasting impact if we can't keep pecking away at this employment issue and keep being aggressive at it and keep working at it.
So when they come to the By the Big O conference, do you make everybody sign in blood that they have to call one relative and encourage them to come here and look for a job?
No,
No, that
not
was
really.
the first time.
Yeah, that was 3 years ago. we did that when it was the snow show a few years ago. We
Yeah.
had the show a few
We
years
had no
after.
power. We
No
had
power.
candles going. And
It was interesting. It was the Tuesday after
That
the
was the
Saturday night.
October whatever.
Yeah, a couple of
Yeah.
years ago. But we had the show, and it interestingly, people that worked the show, it was a struggle because there's a lot of technical things that you need power for, but it forced people to just look at each other and talk and speak and do business in a, what I would say, 1950s way.
well, what was funny is it took away all the power, all the gizmos, all the computers.
And it brought you all
everything.
really to the same
And
level.
it was funny to see people just talking over a candle.
Okay,
and
you can get free tickets at the Chamber. There's
Right.
still time. Or you can pay $5 at the door. I want to thank Larry Gomez and Jim Hansen Jr. for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Tuesday the 19th. We'll see you.
Tuesday the 19th, Holiday and Convention Center.
You bet.
Thank you for joining us on Consider This.
Consider This with Carol Schrader is made possible with support from Bass & Associates and First Data Resources.